The great chamber was silent. 12 massive seats formed a circle around the central platform, and in each seat sat a representative of the most powerful species in the galaxy. Their eyes, some with pupils and some without, all looked down at the single human woman, standing alone in the center. Ambassador Yuna kept her back straight and her hands folded in front of her. She had spent 3 years preparing for this moment, 3 years of learning alien customs, studying their languages, and building relationships with species that looked at humans the way humans might look at insects. And now, after all that work, she watched as the voting display turned red, one light after another. 12 votes. 12 rejections. Not a single species had voted in favor of Earth. High Arbiter Velos rose from his seat. He was Mentari, a species that resembled tall, thin birds with silver feathers and cold black eyes. The Mentari had ruled the Galactic Council for over 2,000 years. They saw themselves as the natural leaders of all intelligent life. To them, humans were nothing more than clever animals who had somehow stumbled upon technology they did not deserve. The Council has reached its decision, Velos announced. His voice echoed through the chamber like ice cracking. The species known as humans, from the planet designated Earth, are hereby denied membership in the Galactic Council. Furthermore, due to their documented history of violence, warfare, and aggressive expansion, the Council has voted to implement immediate containment measures. Yuna did not react. She had expected this. The intelligence reports had warned her weeks ago that the vote would fail. But she had come anyway, because her people needed to see. They needed to understand what the galaxy truly thought of them. Velos continued reading from the decree. All faster-than-light technology in human possession will be confiscated. Human colonies on the planets Mars and Titan will be evacuated and relocated to Earth. The Sol system will be placed under permanent quarantine. No human vessel will be permitted to leave. No alien vessel will be permitted to enter without Council authorization. The other representatives nodded in approval. The Korath, massive creatures with rock-like skin, grumbled their agreement. The Sileni, beings of pure light, contained in crystalline bodies, flickered with satisfaction. Even the Ven, who had once shown humans some small kindness, voted with the others. Yuna finally spoke. Her voice was calm and clear. "May I address the Council one final time?" Velos waved his hand dismissively. "You may speak, human, though it will change nothing." "I understand," Yuna said. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each representative. "I came here today hoping to show you that humans could be trusted, that we could contribute to the galactic community, that we could learn and grow alongside you." She paused. "I see now that you never intended to give us that chance. Your species is too dangerous," Velos replied. "You fight among yourselves constantly. You destroy your own environment. You develop weapons of mass destruction for sport. The galaxy is safer with you contained. We have made mistakes," Yuna admitted. "Many mistakes. But we have also shown the ability to change, to unite, to reach beyond our planet, and dream of something greater." She straightened her shoulders. "You see our history of conflict and call us violent, but I see a species that has survived ice ages, plagues, and disasters that would have destroyed weaker peoples. I see a species that refuses to surrender, no matter the odds." "Inspiring words," Velos said mockingly. "But words are all you have. Your fleet is primitive. Your technology is stolen. You are alone in a galaxy that has decided you do not belong." Yuna nodded slowly. "You have made your decision," she said. "Now humanity will make ours." She turned and walked toward the chamber doors. Her footsteps were the only sound in the vast room. Just before she reached the exit, she paused and looked back over her shoulder. "I hope you remember this day, High Arbiter. I hope you all remember this day." Then she was gone. Far away, in Earth's orbital defense station, Admiral Tay watched the broadcast with cold eyes. He was a man in his 50s, with gray hair cut short and a face that showed the marks of a lifetime spent in service to his world. Beside him stood his tactical officer, a young woman named Hana whose fingers were already moving across her console. "It's done," Tay said quietly. "They voted to cage us. Enforcement fleet will arrive in 72 hours. Hana reported. 47 capital ships, 300 support vessels. Enough firepower to glass every city on Earth. Tay nodded. He had known this day would come. They had all known, deep down, that the galaxy would never accept them. Humans were too different, too unpredictable, too human. He walked to the observation window and looked down at Earth. The blue planet turned slowly below, clouds swirling over oceans and continents. 8 billion people lived on that world. 8 billion people who were about to learn that their future had been decided without their consent. Contact Admiral 1 at Mars Station, Tay ordered. And General Su at Titan Command. It's time. Hana hesitated. Sir, Protocol Dandelion was never meant to actually be used. It was just a contingency. A last resort. And what would you call this, Lieutenant? Hana had no answer. Tay turned back to face her. His expression was not angry or sad. It was determined. Humanity spent thousands of years fighting each other over resources, land, and power. When we finally united, we reached for the stars, only to find that the galaxy had already decided we were not welcome. The Council thinks they can contain us. They think they can make us disappear. He shook his head. They don't understand what we are. What are we, sir? Survivors. Tay looked at Earth one more time. Begin Protocol Dandelion. Send the word to every hidden station, every sleeper ship, every prepared colony site. Tell them the time has come. Across the solar system, in places the Council did not know existed, lights began to activate. Engines that had been cold for decades started warming up. Cryogenic pods ran final diagnostic checks on their sleeping passengers. Hidden in asteroid fields, buried under lunar craters, disguised as space debris, humanity's secret fleet prepared to fly. The Council had voted against Earth. They had no idea that they had just made the worst mistake in galactic history. And somewhere on that blue planet below, in a small garden where flowers still grew despite everything, an old woman watched the news and smiled. She had helped design Protocol Dandelion 30 years ago. She had always known this day would come. Fly far, little ones, she whispered to the sky. Fly far and grow strong. The galaxy will learn to fear us. And then, one day, it will learn to respect us. The stars waited, cold and distant. Humanity was coming. The first sleeper ship launched 12 hours after the vote. It was called the Endurance, and it carried 10,000 humans, frozen in cryogenic sleep. Commander Day stood on the bridge and watched as Earth grew smaller behind them. He was 34 years old, and he knew he would never see his home planet again. Course plotted for the outer rim, reported his navigator, a woman named Sue with sharp eyes and steady hands. We will pass through Mentari patrol zones in 6 hours. After that, we enter uncharted space. What about the Council's sensors? Day asked. Our stealth systems are active. As far as their equipment can tell, we are nothing more than a small asteroid drifting through space. Sue allowed herself a small smile. They never bothered to scan for human ships. They did not think we had any worth worrying about. That was the secret the Council never understood. They had looked at humanity's small fleet of official vessels and decided humans were no threat. They never thought to look deeper. They never imagined that humans had been preparing for this moment for 50 years. Ever since first contact revealed that the galaxy was not the welcoming place they had hoped for. Protocol Dandelion was simple in concept but massive in scale. Across the solar system, hidden in places the Council never thought to search, humanity had built a secret fleet. Not warships, but colony ships. Arcs designed to carry human civilization to the farthest corners of the galaxy. Each ship carried 10,000 sleeping colonists selected for genetic diversity and useful skills. Each ship held the complete library of human knowledge, from ancient philosophy to modern science. Each ship was equipped with automated factories that could build new technology from raw materials. And each ship had a destination, a world that human probes had secretly identified as suitable for life. The Endurance was just the first. Over the next 70 hours, before the Council's fleet arrived, over 800 ships would launch. 8 million humans would scatter across the galaxy like seeds blown from a flower. Back on Earth, Those who stayed behind played their part perfectly. When the Council fleet arrived, they found a planet that appeared to have surrendered completely. The official human government made public statements accepting the quarantine. The small fleet of known human ships was handed over without resistance. Millions of people gathered in city squares, looking up at the alien vessels with what seemed like fear and acceptance. Admiral Velos reported to the Council that the human containment operation was a complete success. The primitive species had been caged. The threat was over. He did not notice the slight smiles on the faces of the humans below. In the underground facilities beneath the mountains of what was once called Korea, Engineer Kang worked without rest. He was 60 years old, with gray hair and hands that still moved with precision despite their age. His team of 200 scientists and engineers had one mission: develop technology that the Council could not imagine. The aliens had made a critical mistake. They assumed that because their civilization was older, it was superior. They had stopped innovating thousands of years ago. Why improve something that already worked? Their ships, their weapons, their tools were the same designs their ancestors had used. Humans were different. Humans never stopped improving things. They looked at alien technology and immediately asked, "How can we make this better?" In the 50 years since first contact, human scientists had made more advances than the Council species had made in 5,000 years. Kang held up a small device, no larger than his thumb. "Quantum communication," he said to his assistant, a young woman named Nari who was also his granddaughter. "This will allow instant contact across any distance. No signal delay, no way to intercept or trace. The colonies will be able to coordinate as if they were in the same room." Nari took the device carefully. "Will it work?" "It has to work. Everything depends on it." Kang looked at her with eyes that held both pride and worry. "You understand what you must do?" "I stay behind. I keep the research going. I train the next generation." Nari's voice was steady. "And when the time comes, I lead them. It may take decades. You may spend your entire life waiting for a moment that never comes. Then I will spend my entire life waiting. That is what our people do. We endure." Kang hugged his granddaughter. He had lost so much already. His wife had died 10 years ago. His son, Nari's father, had gone with the colony fleet. He would likely never see any of them again. But this was what it meant to be human, to sacrifice for the future, to plant trees whose shade you would never enjoy. Months passed, then years. The Council's attention moved on to other matters. Earth became a quiet prison planet, barely worth monitoring. The quarantine patrols grew lazy and careless. Why waste resources watching a contained threat? On the Endurance, Commander Day had aged. His hair was now completely white, and his joints ached from years of living in artificial gravity. But his eyes were still sharp as he watched the planet below their orbit. They had found their destination, a world of green forests and blue oceans, far beyond the Council's reach. "Wake up the first group," he ordered. 10,000 dreamers, ready to build a new home. The cryogenic pods began their revival sequence. One by one, humans opened their eyes in an alien sky. They stumbled out of the ship on weak legs, breathing air that no human had ever breathed before. Some cried, some laughed, some simply stood in silence, looking at the strange plants and the unfamiliar sun. Day addressed them from a small platform. "Welcome to New Sol," he said. "This is our home now. We have nothing except what we brought with us and what we can build with our own hands. The galaxy thinks we are gone. They think we are finished." He looked at the crowd of tired, confused, hopeful faces. "Let us show them how wrong they are. It took 5 years to build the first city, 10 years to establish farms that could feed the growing population, 20 years to build factories that could produce advanced technology, and throughout it all, hidden in the quantum static between stars, messages traveled back and forth. The Endurance colony connected with the Perseverance colony. The Hope colony contacted the Dawn colony. Scattered across 1,000 light years, humanity rebuilt itself in secret. Commander Day died at the age of 73, surrounded by grandchildren who had never seen Earth. His last words were a message to be sent to all the colonies. "We are the seeds of Earth. We have taken root in alien soil. One day, we will bloom." And when we do, the galaxy will remember why they should never have tried to cage the human spirit. Sue, now elderly but still sharp, took command of the colony council. She had one job: prepare for the day when humanity would return. Back on Earth, Nari had grown from a young assistant into a respected leader. Her grandfather, Kang, had passed away, but his work continued. In the underground cities, a new generation of humans was being raised. They learned science and engineering. They learned history and strategy, and they learned patience. The time would come, the seeds would grow into a forest, and the forest would shake the galaxy to its core. 50 years had passed since the vote. The galaxy had changed in many ways, but its memory of humanity had faded like old photographs left in the sun. The council species told stories about the primitive humans who had reached too far and been put in their place. Parents warned their children that being too ambitious would make them end up like the humans, trapped on their little blue world, forgotten by the stars. On Earth, the occupation had become routine. Mentari patrol ships circled the planet in lazy orbits. Their crews were bored soldiers, serving punishment duty on a backwater assignment. Nothing ever happened on Earth. The humans had accepted their fate, or so it appeared. Beneath the surface, in cities carved from rock and hidden from alien sensors, 800 million humans lived in secret. They had built a civilization underground, powered by fusion reactors and lit by artificial suns. Children ran through corridors that stretched for miles. Scientists worked in laboratories filled with equipment the council could not begin to understand, and soldiers trained for a war that might still be decades away. Nari was 73 years old now. Her hair was gray and her face was lined with age, but her mind was as sharp as ever. She had spent her entire life preparing for this moment, just as she had promised her grandfather. Now, sitting in the command center of Underground Soul, she received news that changed everything. The message came through the quantum network this morning, reported her aide, a young man named June. The Colonial Council has reached a decision. Nari read the message on her screen. Her hands trembled slightly, not from weakness, but from emotion. After 50 years, after a lifetime of waiting, the colonies were ready. How many? She asked. 17 major colonies have responded. Combined population of approximately 400 million. They have built a fleet of over 2,000 ships, all using technology far beyond anything the Council possesses. June hesitated. But there is more. Tell me. Our intelligence network has intercepted communications between the Mentari High Command and the Council. They have voted again. His voice grew hard. They plan to harvest Earth, strip mine the entire planet for resources. The human population will be relocated to labor camps on Council mining worlds. Nari closed her eyes. She had always known the Council was cruel, but this was beyond anything she had imagined. They did not just want to contain humanity. They wanted to erase them, to use them up and throw them away like broken tools. When? She asked. The harvesting fleet will arrive in 6 months. 6 months. After 50 years of waiting, they had 6 months to save their world. But Nari did not feel despair. She felt something she had not allowed herself to feel in decades. Hope. She opened a communication channel to the colonies. The quantum network connected her instantly to New Seoul, to New Busan, to all the scattered children of Earth. On the screen appeared the face of Admiral Jin, a man in his 40s who had been born on the colony ship Endurance and had never set foot on Earth. We received your message, Nari said. The Council is coming for us. Jin nodded. His expression was calm, but his eyes burned with determination. Then we come for them first. The fleet is ready, Elder Nari. We have been ready for years. We were only waiting for the word. The word is given. Nari felt tears forming in her eyes. Come home, children of Earth. Come home and show the galaxy what happens when you try to destroy the human spirit. Jin smiled. It was not a cruel smile, but it was not a gentle one either. We will see you soon, Elder. Tell our people on Earth to look up at the sky. Help is coming. The communication ended. Nari sat in silence for a long moment, then turned to June. Begin the awakening, she ordered. Every cell, every resistance group, every hidden soldier. The time for hiding is over. It is time for Earth to remember what it means to be free. The message spread through the underground cities like fire. For 50 years, they had been patient. For 50 years, they had worked in secret, building weapons and training warriors while pretending to be defeated prisoners above ground. Now, finally, they could stop pretending. In factories hidden beneath mountains, the first human-built starships powered up their engines. They were not large, but they were fast and deadly, equipped with weapons that could cut through council shields like paper. In training facilities carved from ancient caves, soldiers checked their equipment one final time. They were not many compared to the council's vast armies, but each one was worth 100 alien soldiers. They had been trained from birth for this moment, and in the skies above Earth, the Mentari patrol ships continued their lazy orbits, completely unaware that the world below was preparing to explode. On New Sol, Admiral Jin addressed his fleet. 2,000 ships hung in orbit around the colony world, their hulls gleaming in the light of an alien sun. Each ship carried technology that would have seemed like magic to the council species, engines that could cross the galaxy in weeks instead of years, shields that regenerated faster than they could be damaged, weapons that struck with the precision of a surgeon's knife. For 50 years, we have grown in secret, Jin said, his voice carried across every ship in the fleet. For 50 years, we have remembered Earth. Our parents told us stories of blue skies and green forests, of cities that touched the clouds and oceans that stretched to the horizon. Many of us have never seen these things. We know them only from pictures and dreams. He paused, letting his words sink in. Today, we go to make those dreams real. We go to free our homeworld. We go to show the galaxy that humanity cannot be caged, cannot be contained, cannot be destroyed. His voice rose. We are the children of Earth. We are coming home, and nothing in this galaxy will stop us. The fleet began to move. 2,000 ships, carrying the hope of a scattered species, pointed their bows toward a distant blue dot. On Earth, Nari watched the stars through a hidden telescope. Somewhere out there, beyond the council's quarantine, her people were coming. She was old now. She had given her entire life to this cause. She might not survive to see the victory, but that did not matter. What mattered was that humanity would survive. What mattered was that the council would learn, finally and forever, that they had made the worst mistake in galactic history. They had tried to destroy a species that refused to die, and now that species was coming to collect what was owed. The Mentari harvesting fleet jumped into Earth's solar system expecting to find a broken world. Admiral Velos, now old and bitter after years of declining influence, commanded the operation personally. He wanted to see the end of the human problem with his own eyes. He wanted to watch as their cities were torn apart and their people loaded onto transport ships like cargo. What he found instead was impossible. Admiral, his sensor officer said, voice shaking, we are detecting unknown vessels. Many unknown vessels. Define many. Over 2,000, sir. They appeared from nowhere. Our sensors did not detect their approach. Velos stared at the tactical display. It had to be a mistake. The quarantine had been perfect. No human ship had escaped. He had made certain of it personally. And yet, there they were. Ships of human design but using technology that should not exist. They surrounded his fleet like wolves circling wounded prey. A communication request appeared on his screen. Against his better judgment, Velos accepted it. The face that appeared was human, a man in middle age with steady eyes and a calm expression. He wore a military uniform that Velos did not recognize. Admiral Velos, the human said. I am Admiral Jin, of the Earth Colonial Fleet. You are ordered to power down your weapons and surrender your vessels immediately. Velos laughed. It was a harsh, angry sound. Surrender? To humans? You must be joking. I do not know how you escaped our quarantine, but you are still outnumbered. My fleet will destroy you. I think not. Jin's expression did not change. Look at your tactical display, Admiral. Really look at it. Velos did. And slowly, the color drained from his face. The human ships were not just surrounding his fleet. They were positioned with perfect precision, each one covering another's blind spots, each one ready to strike at a moment's notice. Worse, His sensors were struggling to get accurate readings. The human vessels were using some kind of technology that made them appear blurred, uncertain, as if they existed in multiple places at once. 50 years ago, Jin continued, your council voted to cage humanity. You thought you were containing a primitive species. You were wrong. You were planting seeds, and those seeds have grown into something your ancestors could never have imagined. On Earth below, the resistance struck. Hidden facilities across the planet opened simultaneously, releasing weapons and vehicles that had been waiting for decades. Mentari ground troops, lazy from years of easy occupation, suddenly found themselves under attack from every direction. Nari commanded the assault from her underground headquarters. At 73, she was too old to fight in person, but her mind was still sharp enough to coordinate a war. 3rd Division has secured the Seoul Power Station, June reported. 5th Division is moving on the Mentari Command Center. Casualties? Nari asked. Light. Their soldiers have no idea how to respond. They have never faced an enemy that fights like us. That was the human advantage. For thousands of years, the council species had fought each other in rigid, predictable patterns. Their wars were almost ceremonial, following rules and traditions that limited casualties on both sides. They had no concept of human warfare, of tactics that changed moment to moment, of soldiers who could think independently and adapt to any situation. The Mentari troops broke within hours. Their commanders surrendered or fled. By nightfall, Earth was free for the first time in 50 years. In space, Admiral Velos was facing a similar disaster. He had ordered his ships to attack, confident that numbers would win the day. Instead, his fleet was being picked apart with surgical precision. The human weapons were unlike anything in Council records. They did not blast through shields with brute force. They slipped through like water through cracks, striking vital systems while leaving the rest of the ship intact. One by one, Mentari vessels went dark, disabled but not destroyed. We could kill you, Jin said through the communication channel. Every ship, every soldier. We have the technology. We have the firepower. But that is not why we are here. Velos watched as his flagship lost power. The lights flickered and died. Emergency systems barely kept life support running. Why then? Velos demanded. If not for revenge, then what do you want? Justice, Jin replied, something your council never understood. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. Human colonial fleets appeared around every major council world. Not attacking, but demonstrating. They could have burned those planets to ash. Instead, they simply waited, their presence a silent warning that the balance of power had shifted forever. Ambassador Yuna, now in her 80s, recorded a message that was broadcast to every world in council space. She sat in a simple chair, wearing plain clothes, looking like anyone's grandmother, but her voice carried the weight of half a century of waiting. 50 years ago, I stood before your council and asked for partnership. You answered with imprisonment. You tried to erase humanity from the galaxy. You failed. She leaned forward slightly. Look at your screens. Look at the ships surrounding your worlds. These are our children, born on planets you did not know existed, raised on stories of a home they had never seen. They crossed the galaxy to be here today. Not for war, not for conquest, for justice. The image behind her changed, showing the 17 human colonies. Cities that rivaled anything in council space. Factories that produced technology beyond council understanding. Schools where children learned to dream bigger than their ancestors ever had. We offer you a choice, Yuna continued. The council system is broken. It is built on domination and fear. We propose something new. A galactic assembly where all species have an equal voice. Where decisions are made through cooperation, not control. Where no species, no matter how young or how different, can be voted into a cage. She paused, letting her words sink in. Accept this offer, and we will share our technology freely. Our medical advances that can extend life. Our agricultural systems that can feed billions. Our energy technology that can power worlds without destroying them. We ask nothing in return except respect. Her expression hardened slightly. Refuse, and we will simply leave. We will take our colonies, our technology, our people, and we will disappear into the galaxy. You will never find us. You will never catch us, and every year, you will fall further behind, while we grow stronger." She stood slowly, supporting herself on the back of her chair. "The choice is yours. But I suggest you think carefully before you vote. Your last vote against humanity did not end well." The broadcast ended. The galaxy waited in silence, trying to understand how everything they knew had changed in a single day. And on Earth, newly freed after 50 years of occupation, humans looked up at the stars for the first time without fear. Their children had come home. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was the most chaotic in recorded history. Representatives screamed at each other across the chamber. Some demanded immediate war against the humans, others begged for surrender. The Sileni flickered with such intensity that their crystal bodies nearly cracked. The Korath smashed their massive fists against their seats, roaring in languages that had no translation. High Arbiter Velos was not there. He sat in a holding cell aboard his own flagship, a prisoner of the species he had tried to destroy. His career was over. His legacy was ash. History would remember him as the fool who underestimated humanity. The new Mentari representative, a younger official named Talos, tried desperately to restore order, but the damage was done. For 2,000 years, the Mentari had ruled the council through fear and power. Now, human ships surrounded their homeworld, and their great fleet floated dead in Earth's orbit. "We must fight," insisted the Korath representative, his rocky face twisted with rage. "We cannot surrender to these primitives. We outnumber them 1,000 to 1. Numbers mean nothing against their technology," replied the Sileni representative, her light dimming with worry. "Their weapons bypass our shields. Their ships appear from nowhere. We cannot even detect them until they choose to be seen. Then we develop better technology. We copy what they have created. In 50 years, they advanced further than we have in 5,000. How long do you think it would take us to catch up?" The argument continued in circles. Some representatives advocated patience, suggesting they accept the human offer and wait for an opportunity to strike back later. Others insisted that any compromise would show weakness, inviting other species to challenge council authority. The Ven representative, a small being with soft gray skin and large thoughtful eyes, finally spoke. His species had always been the quietest voice on the council, often ignored by the larger powers. "We voted against Earth 50 years ago," he said. His voice was gentle, but it somehow cut through the noise. "I remember that day. I remember the human ambassador. How she stood alone in this chamber and asked only for a chance. I remember how we denied her. How we denied all of them." The chamber fell silent. "I voted with the majority," the Ven continued. "I was afraid. Humans were strange and unpredictable. Their history was violent. It seemed safer to contain them than to trust them." He paused. "I was wrong. We were all wrong." "What are you suggesting?" Talos demanded. "That we simply give up? That we abandon 2,000 years of council governance? I am suggesting that we learn from our mistake." The Ven looked around the chamber. The humans could have destroyed us. They had the power. They had the justification. We tried to erase their species from existence. No one would have blamed them for repaying that cruelty. He spread his small hands. Instead, they offer partnership. They offer technology that could benefit all our peoples. They ask only for respect and equality. How is this the behavior of the violent primitives we claimed they were? No one had an answer. "I will vote for the human proposal," the Ven announced. "I will vote for the Galactic Assembly, and I will spend whatever remains of my life trying to repair the harm my fear caused." One by one, other representatives began to speak. Some remained defiant, but their voices grew weaker as more species joined the Ven. The Sileni voted yes. 3 smaller species that had always feared council domination voted yes. Even some of the Korath, grudgingly, voted yes. When the final tally was counted, the result was overwhelming. The Galactic Council would dissolve, a new Galactic Assembly would take its place, and humanity would be welcomed not as prisoners or primitives, but as equal partners in galactic civilization. The news spread across the galaxy within hours. On 1,000 worlds, beings of 100 species watched in amazement as history changed before their eyes. Many did not know what to think. The order they had known their entire lives was ending. Something new and uncertain was beginning. On Earth. The celebration lasted for days. People danced in streets that had been occupied just weeks before. Families who had been separated by the quarantine reunited with tears and laughter. Children born in underground cities saw the open sky for the first time and wept at its beauty. Admiral Jin landed his flagship in what had once been Mentari Occupation Headquarters. He was greeted by Nari, who had insisted on being there despite her age and failing health. They stood together. The old woman who had spent her life waiting and the young admiral who had never seen his homeworld. Looking at the blue sky above. "My grandfather would have loved to see this day," Nari said softly. "He did see it," Jin replied. "Through you. Through all of us who carried his work forward." Nari nodded slowly. "What happens now, Admiral? Now we build. We teach. We show the galaxy that humanity is more than the violent species they feared." He paused. "And we make sure no one ever tries to cage us again." Ambassador Yuna arrived 3 days later, transported from the colonial territories where she had recorded her message. At 83 years old, she moved slowly, supported by young aides who treated her like a national treasure. Which she was. She met with the representatives of the new Galactic Assembly in a ceremony broadcast to every world. The Ven representative presented her with the formal declaration of the Assembly's formation. Yuna accepted it with hands that trembled not from weakness, but from emotion. 50 years ago, I walked out of the council chamber believing I had failed, she said. I thought I had let my people down. I thought I had doomed them to imprisonment forever. She looked at the gathered representatives. I was wrong. My failure planted a seed, your cruelty watered it, and humanity's spirit made it grow into something beautiful. She held up the declaration. This document represents a new beginning, not just for humanity, but for all species. A galaxy built on cooperation instead of control, on respect instead of fear. She smiled. It will not be easy. We will make mistakes. We will disagree. We will sometimes fail to understand each other, but we will face those challenges together, as equals. The ceremony ended with a moment of silence for all who had not lived to see this day. For Commander Day, who had led the first colony ship into the unknown. For Engineer Kang, who had developed the technology that saved his species. For the millions who had lived and died under occupation, never losing hope that freedom would come. Months passed. The Galactic Assembly established its headquarters on a neutral world, and representatives from dozens of species began the slow work of building a new civilization. Human technology spread across the galaxy, improving lives in ways the old council had never bothered to attempt. Diseases that had plagued species for millennia were cured. Worlds that had been strip-mined were restored. Old enemies began, carefully, to become friends. Yuna retired to Earth, to a small house near the ocean. She spent her final years tending a garden, watching the waves, and receiving visits from dignitaries who wanted to meet the woman who had helped change history. On the last day of her life, at the age of 91, she sat in her garden as the sun set over the water. Jin was there. Now the commander of Earth's defense fleet. Nari was there, carried in a chair because her own legs had finally given out, and thousands of others, watching through screens across the planet and beyond. I have lived long enough, Yuna said quietly. I have seen my people freed. I have seen the galaxy change. I can rest now. She closed her eyes and breathed her last breath. The galaxy mourned. Even species that had once voted to destroy humanity sent messages of condolence. Yuna was buried in her garden, beneath the flowers she had loved, with a simple stone that read only her name and 2 dates. But humanity did not stop. They never did. Explorers pushed into regions of space never before visited. Scientists developed technologies that seemed like magic. Artists created works that moved beings who had no concept of human emotion. And everywhere they went, humans carried with them the lesson of their history. They had been told they did not belong. They had been told they were too violent, too primitive, too dangerous. They had been caged and quarantined and scheduled for destruction, and they had proven everyone wrong, because that was what humans did. They survived. They adapted. They grew stronger from every challenge. And they never, ever gave up. The stars belonged to them now. Not through conquest, but through persistence. Not through destruction, but through determination. The Galactic Council had made its last mistake, and humanity had made sure the galaxy would never forget it.